US soldiers, German Wehrmacht, and Russian Cossacks, side by side, behind enemy lines, fighting the SS for a common cause, and for an incredibly wholesome cause. It is April 1945, and the Nazi war machine is at its end. A Luftwaffe intelligence officer, Colonel Walter Holters, finds himself stranded in hostile Czechoslovakia. He is caught between advancing Russians in the east and Americans on the west. But his concern is not for himself. He is stranded at a stud farm where the famous Lipizzaner horses are being cared for and bred. These Lipizzaner, revered for their lineage and beauty, were seized from the Spanish riding school in Vienna in 1938. These show horses are among the purest bred and finest trained, with a lineage that dates back over 40 years through the Habsburg dynasty. The German regime, with its warped ideology, harbored ambitions to mold these majestic creatures into the embodiment of their twisted version of purity, an Aryan horse breed fit for their military ambitions. A horseman at heart, Holters understood the impending doom facing the Lipizzaners, recalling the ruthless fates suffered by horses at the hands of the advancing Red Army, as the Russians had already eliminated the Royal Hungary Lipizzaner collection. Holters pleaded with the stud farm commander, Lieutenant Colonel Hubert Rudowski, to surrender to the Americans and save the precious horses, but he refused due to his unwavering loyalty and commitment to his country. Holters, undeterred by the reluctance of his German counterpart, took matters into his own hands. In a desperate bid to save these treasures of equine heritage, Holters turned to an unlikely ally, the American forces. Ignoring the boundaries of nationality and allegiance, he brokered a clandestine pact with the Americans, promising German surrender in exchange for the rescue of the Lipizzaners. With the clock ticking and danger looming, he sought out the 42nd Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron, under the command of General George Patton. Colonel Charles Reed led the renowned 2nd Cavalry Group, celebrated for its audacious deep penetrations into enemy lines. Among German soldiers, the unit earned the nickname Ghosts of Patton's Army for its elusive and formidable nature. Despite its mechanized status, a significant number of the group's officers boasted equestrian backgrounds, having previously served in mounted units prior to mechanization. The mission ahead was fraught with peril. The path to the stud farm lay through enemy territory, guarded by German troops who were oblivious to the agreement. And many of the horses were pregnant or recently gave birth, which made their transport even more difficult. Aware the Red Army was rapidly approaching, possibly just hours away, Patton commanded his troops to swiftly execute the mission, but there was limited manpower and resources available. Major Robert Andrews was entrusted with leading the charge and assembled a small task force comprising of cavalry troops, M8 scout cars, M8 howitzer mortar carriages, and 2 M24 Chaffee light tanks. To complete this objective, Andrews and his men had to penetrate 20 miles behind enemy lines, secure their horses, and return them to friendly territory. In the vicinity were 2 armored divisions. Although understrength, undersupplied, and disorganized, they still posed a threat to the rescue mission. Andrews was able to reach the farm after fortuitously encountering little resistance, but he encountered another problem. He simply didn't have enough men to fight off any Germans he may encounter and safely secure the transport of the Lipizzaners. Andrews found the answer in the POWs who worked on the farm and in the Germans who surrendered to him. He recruited a diverse group of individuals to join the task force, including allied POWs from various countries like Britain, New Zealand, France, Poland, and Serbia. But that wasn't enough. He even armed German soldiers from the Wehrmacht and Luftwaffe who were technically prisoners of war. Additionally, Andrews welcomed the assistance of Prince Amazov, a Russian anti-communist Cossack who led a group of cavalry. Together they formed Stuart's Foreign Legion, a ragtag band united by a singular mission, to safeguard the Lipizzaners at any cost. Through makeshift transports and Wild West style herding, every effort was made to ensure their safety. All the while, they had to fend off 2 attacks from the Waffen SS, with the Americans losing a handful of men. Just as they were departing the stud farm, Russian T-34 tanks appeared over the horizon, but they decided not to interfere and allowed the mission to proceed unmolested. Mounted on horseback, American, German, and Cossack officers alike led the horses to safety. Men of many nations, some of whom were enemies a few short hours earlier, coming together to save a renowned horse breed. But that isn't the only remarkable element. The men knew the war was going to be over within weeks, and none of them wanted to risk their lives when they were so close to surviving the war. But with a noble mission at hand, they did what was necessary. And at the end of the worst conflict of human history, something beautiful emerged, and the future of the Lipizzaners was assured. The Lipizzaners were returned to the Spanish riding school where they prosper to this day. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Odd Historian. This is a brand new channel, so please comment what you liked and what I could improve, and comment your bit of odd or lesser known history. See you next time.